Okay, we're live. All right. Welcome back. Happy Halloween, everybody. I had two hands up there. Happy Halloween, everybody. Let's get this a little bit over here. Okay, that looks better. Okay, so surprised. I was gonna take a few days off, few weeks off, but we're back talking about Malcolm Lowry. It's the Day of the Dead. His main book, Under the Volcano, takes place. I discovered him. I saw that. I have a link to the this documentary about Malcolm Lowry. I discovered him in 1984. We will, when you used to go to, used to be all these repertory theaters and stuff and I saw these films like, I used to see Rocky Horror Picture Show, movies about, William S. Burroughs, The Beats, document. I forgot what we saw Once Upon a Time in America, I've seen other documentaries, and they're famous. Like the one specifically in Balboa used to show a lot of Hitchcock and Eraserhead, stuff from the 70s and 80s. Like film buff stuff. But that's how I found out about this author. I was just kind of getting into Joyce and Beckett and Malcolm Lowry. Kind of came up, and he was born in 1909, so it's close to the same time as Beckett and Jean-Paul Sartre. He was an English poet and novelist who is best known for his 1947 novel Under the Volcano, which was voted number 11 in the Modern Library 100 Best Novels list. He was born in New Brighton, divorced son, and they grew up with a small golf course, a maid, a cook, and a nanny. He began drinking alcohol at age 14. Okay, so that's a lot. But yeah, he wrote. Yes, I mean, a lot of people focus on the Under the Volcano, but he did write an earlier novel called Ultramarine. He also wrote a lot of poetry, which was sort of more conventional stuff, and a short story collection kind of came out after he died. Most of the poetry, he only really published the two novels, maybe some poems in literary journals. So let's read a little bit. Let's read the beginning of Under the Volcano. The two mountain chains traverse the republic roughly from north to south, forming between them a number of valleys and plateaus. Overlooking one of these valleys, which is dominated by two volcanoes, lies 6,000 feet above sea level. The town of Quananaquack is situated well south of the Tropic of Cancer, to be exact, on the 19th parallel, and about the same latitude as the Rivalagito Islands to the west in the Pacific, or much further west, the southernmost tip of Hawaii, and as the port of Zucox to the east, and the Atlantic seaboard of Yucatan near the border of British Honduras, or very much further east, the town of Juggernaut in India on the Bay of Bengal. So he's kind of situating where the hell he is, because you know most Brits in the 30s and 40s didn't really go anywhere outside of Europe. The walls of the town, which is built on a hill, are high, the streets and lanes tortuous and broken, the roads winding. The fine American-style highway leads in from the north, but is lost in its narrow streets and comes out a goat track. Quananaquack possesses 18 churches and 57 cantinas. It also boasts a golf course and no less than 400 swimming pools, public and private, filled with water that ceaselessly pours down from the mountains, and many splendid hotels. The Hotel de Selva stands on the slightly higher hill just outside the town near the railway station. It is built farther back from the main highway and surrounded by gardens and terraces which command a spacious view in every direction. Palatial A certain air of desolate splendor pervades it, for it is no longer a casino. You might not even dice for drinks in a bar. The ghosts of ruined gamblers haunt it. No one seems to swim in the magnificent Olympic pool. The springboards stand empty, and the springboards stand empty and mournful. Its highlight courts are grass grown and deserted. Two tennis courts are kept up in the season. Towards the sunset on the Day of the Dead in November 1939, two men in white flannels sat on the main terrace of the casino drinking anise. They had been playing tennis, followed by billiards and rackets, rainproof screwed in, and their rackets, rainproof screwed in their presses. The doctor's triangular, the others quadrangular, lay on the parapet before them as the processions winding from the cemetery down from the hillside behind the hotel come closer. The plangent sounds, yeah, I like that word, plangent, of their chanting were borne by to the two men. They turned to watch the mourners a little later, to be visible only as melancholy lights of their candles circling among distant trestled cornstalks. Dr. Arturo Diaz Vigil pushed the bottles of Ines de Mono over to Monsieur Jacques Ruel, who now was leaning forward intently. So yeah, I mean, after I saw this, well, there's a movie came out soon around that time too with Albert Finney, and I think it was nominated for Academy Award. And so drinking a lot of after reading this book and seeing the movie, drinking a lot of anise or whatever. What what is it? It's been so long. I mean, there's a lot of different versions. Yeah, what is it? Yeah, so it's a lot. Yeah, it's like yeah, there's a Spanish version, and then like French has what they have, like the Ricard or and stuff, like other ones. What? Yeah, a Pernod. Yeah, Pernod, Anis de Mono, Seco. Yeah, any kind of licorice flavored drink. So I was drinking a lot of those back in the day. 80s. I used to have like a bottle of Pernod and Ricard and Ouzo. That's like the Greek version. It's sitting right there on my next to my library. Under the Volcano by Mount is a modernist novel published in 1947, set in Mexico in 1938. It follows the consul, a former British diplomat with an alcohol addiction, on the day of his death. In addition to the consul, a small cast of characters include the consul's half-brother, Hugh, his ex-wife, Yvonne, and his friend-turned-enemy, Jacques Leruel. Lowry, who spent time in Mexico, was known to have experienced addiction himself, drew on his own life and constructed a novel. Like many modernist textbooks, explore such themes as breakdown and trust and long-standing institutions and indifference of the universe to humans. The book has been popular since its publication and has frequently been referred to as one of the best novels of the 20th century. So let's talk about the beginning. I'm not going to talk about the whole novel, but many of you may be familiar with this book. Under Volcano begins on the Day of the Dead, 1939, in Mexico. Laurel and Dr. Vigil remember their deceased friend, the council. So he's already died at the council. Jeffrey Furman died a year ago on that day, and the two men wonder if they or anyone else could have prevented his demise. Jacques, who is leaving Mexico after 5 years, parts from Dr. Vigil to pack, but finds himself wandering, lost in thought as he remembers his childhood friendship with the council. Jacques seek shelter from a storm in a cantina where a book of Elizabethan plays that formerly belonged to the council was returned to him. He peruses Christopher Marlowe played Dr. Faustus and finds a letter from the council to his ex-wife Yvonne. As both are dead, he burns it. The novel then rewinds to the fateful day of the council's death in 1939 and follows the different perspectives of the council, Yvonne, and Hugh throughout the remainder of the work. This day begins with Yvonne returning to Quan Nahuac to rejoin the council in hope of taking him to Canada to help him with addiction to alcohol. Back then, there wasn't, they didn't have the Betty Ford clinic. So I don't know. I don't know, like some kind of sanatorium similar to what we see in the Magic Mountain. They would go to some place like that, hospital, or he would be committed to a hospital or something, or maybe a mental hospital. Maybe, I don't know. Let me know in the description. She finds him in a cantina drinking early in the morning, and they walk back to the house they once shared. On the way, Yvonne sees an image of La Despedida, a giant rock formation split in two, and has a visceral emotional reaction. When they return home, the council's maid offers them whiskey, but Yvonne refuses, and the council follows suit. He is insulted by her suggestion that they leave Mexico, claiming that he doesn't have an addiction. Yvonne laments the state of the garden and goes inside to take a bath. The council takes this opportunity to run to the nearest cantina for a drink, but falls in the road and cannot get up. Luckily, another Englishman finds him before he gets run over and offers him a drink from a flask. The council goes back home where he tries and fails to have sex with Yvonne, leaving her room in embarrassment. He settles on the porch, observes the Popocatépetl and Itachuate volcanoes and falls asleep. God, I'm not. I mean, just getting through this book, Quahanaquak, or I don't know if I'm even pronouncing them right. I got the Yucatan part right. Yu returns from his journey from Mexico City and sends a telegram to London about anti-Semitic propaganda in Mexico. He keeps a carbon copy of his telegram in his coat, which is on loan from the council. In the council's house, he is surprised to see Yvonne. He is not aware of their divorce. Hugh and Yvonne stroll into town, frosty with each other, and find horses to ride. They ride to a cantina and warm to each other. After Yvonne tells them about the divorce, they discuss the council's addiction to alcohol, and Yvonne shares her goal of taking him to Canada. Hugh gives her advice on how to do so. As they head home, they stop at Emperor Maximilian's dilapidated palace, where Hugh looks out onto the land and reflects on its beauty. The council wakes with a debilitating headache and runs to the garden, where he finds a bottle of tequila he had hidden from Hugh. He noticed a sign near the garden that translates to, "You like this garden? Why is it yours? We evict those who destroy." He ponders its meaning and bothers his neighbor, Mr. Quincy, with his opinions on the true nature of the Garden of Eden, which Dr. Vigil arrives, and he and the council recall the previous night of drinking. Dr. Vigil advises the council that he should drink more to fight the withdrawal-induced tremors racking his body. As the council sees Yvonne and Hugh returning, he greets them from afar. He then wakes up from a blackout in the bathroom and realizes he's in the bathroom to get ready for the group's trip to Tomlin. Hugh is also getting ready for the trip and thinks back to his younger years when he was an aspiring song composer who loved to play guitar. Before he was a war journalist, he sold 2 of his songs and went to sea to drum up some publicity for him. His publisher, Mr. Bolosky, never attempted to sell the songs, having profited off the printing alone, and used Susie, Mr. Bolosky's wife, in revenge. However, he was soon slapped with a summons to divorce court. in an accusation of plagiarism. Seeing his life began to unravel, Hugh was shocked when Mr. Pulaski dropped all charges. Hugh is seen startled from his reveries by the council, who needs help to shave and get dressed. They share a tender moment of sibling support and reminisce about their respective times at Cambridge. Yvonne, you, and the council walk into town where they run into Jacques Laruelle, with whom Yvonne had an affair that led to the dissolution of the marriage of the council. Jacques invites the trio back to his house. Yvonne takes his arm while the council and you stay a step behind, and you notices that the council seems um, very dissatisfied with the turn of events. At Jacques' house, Yvonne pleads the council to leave before Jacques returns with the drinks. The council refuses and wanders into Jacques' bedroom, where he sees a painting that depicts alcohol users being dragged into hell. It startles him, and then Yvonne suggests that they go into town to see the Day of the Dead festivities. He sends her and Hugh on their way. The council and Jacques walk to a cantina where they argue over whose fault the affair was, with Jacques accusing the council of being the only one to blame. Jacques claims that the council's addiction made him so absent in Yvonne's life, and it was merely a matter of time before she found someone else. The council stumbles away and avoids you and Yvonne. Uh, they take the bus to Tomlin, where Hugh finds himself seated next to a drunk man. He is impressed by the man's ability to somehow be incredibly intoxicated, yet extremely aware of his surroundings. The council labels him a pelado, meaning a peeled one, or someone who doesn't have to be rich to prey on the poor. The bus stops abruptly for a man lying down the road. The man's horse, who has been branded with a number 7 on its side, is tied off to the side of the road. You, Yvonne, and the council and the pelado get off on the bus. The council stops you from examining the man because of the laws that hold bystanders accountable for crimes if they touch the victims. The pelado finally removes the man's hat, and the group sees that he is mortally wounded. No one makes a move to help, not wanting to get involved, and soon a group of vigilante police appear. Everyone returns to the bus, where you sees the pelado has stolen money from the man and is making no attempt to hide it. You muses on the mortality and wonders whether this man is a thief as they ride into Tomlin. At Tomlin, the trio go into the arena and see some bullfighting. While there, Yvonne reminisces about her misguided father and sacrifices he made to keep him afloat. They find themselves that they also then they go to the Salon of Ophelia. The council enters a period of intense intoxication in which you can only hear parts of the conversation. These fragments are interspersed with information from a text on Taxicala that the council is reading. As his mind clears, he engages you in an argument over Spanish Civil War. He accuses Yvonne and you of having romantic feelings for each other and insists that this is their selfish reason for intervening in his drinking. He declares his commitment to self determination and flees the salon. Let's see, the storm is moving in, and the council has in fact gone to Parian and settled at the Farolito to drink, thinking that Yvonne is done with him. He waits for you. While he waits, he drinks heavily and sleeps with a sex worker, which makes him feel as though he's finally free of the burden of repairing his relationship with Yvonne. Vigilante police harass him, accuse him of being a spy. He is wearing Hugh's jacket from earlier, and they find a copy of the telegram Hughes sent to London in his pocket. They insist they must take him to jail. The council fights and tries to escape on the horse branded with the 7, presumably brought there by the vigilante police, but is shot. The shot startles the horse, who runs off and kills Yvonne. As she dies, the council imagines falling into Popo and the volcano, and sees the immense destruction. His body is thrown into the ravine. behind the Farolito, and a dead dog is tossed after him. So that's most of it. I mean, that's kind of where it ends, and let's see how we're doing here. Okay, so we're 20 minutes. That's pretty good. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty colorful story. Let's see how let's see how they talk about it. Okay, so it was so the movie so it's come out. So this movie, let's see, Anthony Burgess also picked it as one of the best novels since 1939, and it came out in 47. So the book is 12 chapters. The first of which introduces a narrative, and it's the first chapter set a year after the events. So, like I said, 39. The two guys are remembering what happened in the novel. The following 11 chapters happen in a single day and follow the accounts chronologically, starting with early in the morning, the Day of the Dead, and his return to wife Yvonne, who left him a year before, to his violent death at the end of the day. In contrast with the omniscient narrative mode of the 1940 version, the published novel focuses each chapter through the mind of one central figure, no two sequential chapters employing the same character's consciousness. The number of chapters was important numerologically, as Lowry explained in a letter to Jonathan Cape. There are 12 hours in a day, and most of the novel happens in a single day, 12 months in a year, 1 year. Besides, the number 12 is symbolic importance in the Kabbalah, which, according to Lowry, represents man's spiritual aspiration. Finally, I have my 12, Lowry says, since he hears in it a clock slowly striking midnight for Faust. So, yeah, there's all the. So, yeah, this is Popocatépetl, is a real volcano. So, yeah, this is. So, we got the characters, there's references to Dr. Faustus, Charles Baudelaire, William Shakespeare, The Divine Comedy. I was already reading. I mean, reading a lot of that stuff at that time when I let's see. Oh yeah, Bukowski hated this book. I don't think he understood it. He's fucking dummy. Okay, so yeah, I mean, when I think of remember this book, I think, he was. I think the other thing was you see in the documentary. I mean, he was kind of influenced a bit by Joseph Conrad, mostly in the book Ultramarine that he wrote before this, and yeah, it's like here he says he's closer to Melville and Conrad than James Joyce. And well, maybe James Joyce in Dubliners. He's more like that. But I mean, as I said before, I think like some writers, I think, I guess he's kind of like a post Hemingway novelist because like I think a lot of the modernists kind of felt. I mean, Joyce did like kind of focus on Dublin, but that made someone like Beckett that came later not want to focus on Dublin at all. Or I mean, even though a lot of it takes place and a lot of the stuff takes place in Ireland and some in France probably, but it's not really an Ireland or a France that we know up to then. It's very abstract. So Lowry, I think like Hemingway. Well, Lowry was much like Hemingway, who would go to Cuba or Spain and write novels based there, and write a lot of notes and include that in those details in his book. And And a lot of people in, I mean, besides diplomats and stuff, a lot of people in the British public were going around to different. I mean, I guess you had like Lawrence Durrell going to Greece, and Conrad, in the Marines or whatever, going on these ventures and stuff. But the average British public only knew about these other places by reading books and stuff, because it's like this is a pre-television time. And so, like, I think a lot of novelists have already felt like, especially England novels. Okay, Dickens, Thomas Hardy, George Eliot. Had kind of perfected the English novel. I mean, it's all there. Like maybe the French and the Russians are a little darker, and have a different view of life, but they've kind of perfected the novel. And so, like, the British guys that came later, sort of had to play around with time. Go to places that English writers hadn't went before and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know how Martin Aim is, or I mean, I guess there is Graham Greene, and I think that's like people now. I think that's why I like some of these Scottish writers like Duncan MacLean, and they just write about the places where nobody's really written novels before, because we have a lot of London novels. We have a lot of novels that take place in Paris, but we don't have novels written about where Irving Welsh or Duncan MacLean are from. So it's very interesting. So it's like it's very new. Or Kem Nunn wrote a couple books, at least one, and that take place in Huntington Beach. I'll probably be talking about him later. But that's only like a part of Lowry. But I mean, he definitely needs to go, in depth. I mean, he's a little bit heavier than some of these novelists that came later, who I think are just kind of are writing kind of entertaining books. But I mean, there's not much kind of serious literariness going on, like the old modernist style and stuff. So I guess we're getting up to 30 minutes. So um, I mean, but this is a book worth, you know. I mean, maybe I'll go back to it and talk about, because the Under the Volcano, chapter by chapter at some point. But let's stop it there. Okay, so happy Day of the Dead, happy Halloween, everybody, and on to the next one.